Okay, this is lesson one on percents. Okay. The first thing is our opening exercise. It's called matching. I am half of a half, 5 cubic inches of water filled in a 20 cubic inch bottle. That is 25%. Okay. I am less than 100th, 25 out of 5,000 contestants won a prize. That is 1/2%. I am the chance of birthing a boy or a girl. Flip a coin and it will land on heads or tails. That is 50%. I am less than half but more than 1/4. 15 out of 50 play drums in a band. That is 30%. I am equal to 1. 35 questions out of 35 questions were answered correctly. That would be 100%. I am more than 1. Instead of $1,200 expected to be raised, 3,600 was collected for the school's fundraiser. That is 300%. I am a tenth of a tenth. 1 penny is the part of $1. Is this part of $1? That is 1%. So that would go down here. I am less than a fourth, but more than a hundredth. $11 out of $110 earned is saved in the bank, and that would be 10%. Okay, so that's first. Next, okay, for exercise two, okay, we have these squares are all out of 100. So to represent 30 out of 100, we could have 3 rows or 3 columns, and they all need to be colored in. I'm going to color the rows because it's just easier for me. To represent 3 out of 100 would be 3 here. The hardest one is the 1/3 of 100, and that would be 1/3 of one box. Okay. Now, example number one, as I said in class, we'll worry about the um, simplifying later. But as I said in class, when we change a percent to a decimal, you move the decimal 2 places to the left and drop the percent sign. To change a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add the percent sign, and that you should have in your notes, and you write it in the very first page. So here, for our percent to change this to a fraction, for a percent, because it's out of 100, we would write that number over 100, so 37.5 over 100. But you can't leave that decimal in the numerator. And the only way to get that out is because it's a multiple of 10. We can multiply both the top and the bottom by 10. This moves that decimal point over by 1 because it's multiples of 10, which would represent 375 over 1,000. Now to change that to a decimal, we would drop the percent sign, move it over 2 decimal places, and that would be 0.375. For the next one, we would have 100 over 100. So it would be a number over 100. All percents are that number over 100. To change that percent to a decimal, we drop that percent sign, move the decimal over 2 places, so we would have 1.0. The next one, we would have 110 over 100. As a decimal, drop the decimal, move it over 2 places to 1.1. For 1%, we would have 1 over 100. Drop the percent sign, move it over twice. Here we would have to add a 0 because we can't have a blank, so it would be 0.01. Here we have a half, so it would be 1/2 over 100. To change this to a decimal, you could do this one of two ways. You could either change this here to 0.5 over 100, and again multiply both top and bottom by 10 to get 5 over 1,000. So it would be 0.005, or change it here to 0.5%, and then change that. Drop the percent sign and move the decimal point over twice. Put in your zeros and have 0.005. The next thing, example 2. Always use what they give you as a guide. In this case, we're filling in our table. It says show your work in the space below. Here we have 350%, so we can take that 350%, drop that percent sign, move that decimal over twice, and we have 3.5 as a decimal. As a fraction, our number over 100. And again, we'll work with simplifying in tomorrow's lesson. For our decimal, we can take the 0.025, move it over twice, and we've got 2.5%. Here, we worked with this earlier in the year. It's our number, which is 25, over its place value, which the 5 is thousandths, and that's our fraction. For this last fraction, we have 1/8. Put it in your calculators by using 1 and then divided by 8. And in our calculators, we get 0.125. And then use that, 0.125. Move it over twice. To the right, add your percent sign. So our percent would be 12.5%. Now, for your homework in class, I corrected this, so I am going to correct it here as well. When you turn the page for your homework, if you notice on 1C, it has 900%. There's no way you can show that on this grid. So what we've done was we put in here that each box represents 10%. That way you can represent 900% now in just this one box. And that is your lesson for today.